One thing that our readers would love to know, because a lot of them would love to hit the ground running in the health and wellness vertical. However, just by nature, a lot of times you can't do that because of regulatory concerns and stuff. So, what was the process like for you? Were you able to hit the ground running or come close to that?
When we first started the company, we, I should actually say my dad because he did this while I was working. But my dad approached the FDA because my dad, being a physician, he's like, hey, this is, a great way to keep people from getting sick. And it took about a year, but in the further discussions with the FDA actually came back and said, if you try to make this a drug, okay, we don't have a category for a nasal washing device. We don't have that. You can either make it a medical device, which the rinse and some of the other tools they're classified as devices, but the nasal spray is really it's just a hygiene tool, and hygiene tools are not necessarily um, they're not regulated as tightly. I can't put on our packaging and say this is going to prevent you from getting sick.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't say that on a bar of soap either. But everybody knows that washing your hands is going to help you from getting sick. But yet the packaging on the bar of soap doesn't say that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because really what it is, it's a hygiene tool. You're washing your nose. You're washing the bacteria. You're washing the crud out of your nose. The same as when you brush your teeth. Okay? You're brushing your teeth to get rid of all of the bacteria. You're washing your hands to get rid of the bacteria. That's what xylitol does in your nose. And that is what the FDA pointed out to us. They said you can go down the road of making it a drug, but by the time you do that, you're going to be millions of dollars into it, and, and then you don't know if you're going to get it classified as a drug. So just market it as a cosmetic. It's a hygiene tool, and that's really what it is. So that's what we sell it as. We started the company in June of 2000, officially started it, and we started going to medical conventions, talking to doctors about it. The natural products industry really picked up on it quick, because the science behind using xylitol in chewing gum and preventing tooth decay had already been around for 30 years at this point. And so the natural products people, they already understood that. So we started putting it out there and they picked it all up. It wasn't that we chose to go into that category. It's just that's who picked it up the fastest.
Mm.
But now, CVS carries it, Rite Aid carries it. Um, Target's going to have it on their shelves in April. Um, Harris Teeter, Super Value, Kroger, pretty much all of your grocery stores carry it. What it does is when you spray, like you're familiar with a saline spray. So
Yes.
if you use a saline spray and you spray it in your nose, after about 30 minutes, your nose is dry again because the salt is actively transported into the tissue. The xylitol isn't. So it's going to sit there in your snot and it's going to do two things. It's going to reduce bacterial adhesion, which is why it prevented those ear infections in the kids that chew gum, is because it binds up with the bacteria. It binds up with the strep pneumo, the H flu, the MCAT, the common pathogens in your upper airway. The xylitol binds up with them, makes them so they can't adhere. If they can't adhere, you're not going to get sick.
But doesn't that mean that you will have to blow your nose more often?
No,
No?
absolutely no.
Oh.
Because your nose, if your nose is working right, I know this sounds gross, but you're eating about a quart of snot a day.
Oh. Just
No,
naturally.
not a quart, a pint, a pint.
Uh-huh.
I'm thinking a little bottle.
So that's just everybody then.
That's just average. That's
Oh.
a pint. Because your body makes it, and it
Mm-hmm.
takes but every 4 hours, it cycles through. If your nose is working correctly,
Uh-huh.
it's called the mucociliary clearance cycle. That mucociliary clearance cycle is about 4 hours.
Okay, and people don't usually notice it.
No,
It's just,
it's
oh,
just
okay.
completely. But the cilia in your nose sweeps all the dirt and the bacteria. It sweeps it back,
Mm-hmm.
so it goes down, and every now and then you'll unconsciously you'll swallow. So the backstory was my dad is a physician. He's a doctor. He's a family physician, and back in the 90s, he was having all these kids that were having ear infections. I mean, ear infections with children has always been a big issue. And currently, what they do is they just give them antibiotics. And my dad, as a physician, he understands that taking antibiotics is never good. You know, you use them if you have to, but a lot of doctors hand them out like candy. And he thought it was very detrimental to these young children to be giving them antibiotics. And so he went on this new website called PubMed back in the 90s.
Still around.
Still around.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's still around. But it's where it was the first time where you could go in and query and search tens of thousands, if not millions. I mean, I'm sure it's up to millions by now, but millions of these documents of research studies. And as a physician, he went on there and started looking, querying preventing ear infections. And what kept coming up was all of these dental research studies. And so the backstory to this is that xylitol, they've known for 40, almost 50 years now that xylitol prevents tooth decay. Very effective at doing that. Because if you use it, you actually get rid of the bacteria in your mouth that create acid. And that's what xylitol does. It's something that fluoride doesn't address. Nothing else we do addresses that. But my dad read these studies, and in the footnote, the reason why these studies kept popping up is because in the footnotes of these dental research studies, what they also collected, and all the data they collected, was the kids that used the xylitol gum in these studies, not only did they not get cavities, they also had 42% fewer upper respiratory infections, ear infections, stuff like that. And when they started noticing this, they actually published a study back in 98. I published a paper in the British Medical Journal back in 1998 pointing all this out. My dad read all this, and he had all these kids that were too young to chew gum, so he, trying to be an innovative doctor, and he went and bought some saline spray, put some xylitol into it, because xylitol, ear infections start in the nose. So he just started washing out these kids' nose with his xylitol nasal spray. And the kids stopped getting sick. They had a 92% decrease in ear infections. So he started using this nasal spray on adults with allergies, asthma, sinus infections, and it kept cleaning, and they kept coming back and saying, yeah, it helps. It doesn't, I don't have these issues anymore. They've done studies since then at Georgetown. There was a study that was published that talks about how in a matter of 3 weeks using it, it improved their peak airflow by 35%.